A very good afternoon, dear students. In this video, we shall discuss on Science Chapter 5. So, Science Chapter 5 is on fundamental unit of life. Dear students, we are going to discuss on a very important unit of our life in this chapter. That unit is very small, and this tiny unit comes together, gives us life. This unit is very small and it cannot be seen with our naked eye, but it has a great impact in our life, and our existence is possible because of this unit. This unit may be very small and insignificant, but it is very important in the history of science as well. So the tiny unit, what we are going to discuss in this class or video is cell, the fundamental unit of life. So students, do you know what is the word meaning for fundamental? The word meaning for fundamental is essential. Yes, cell is the most essential or fundamental unit of our life. And the word cell is derived from Latin word little room. Why little room? We will get to know as we go on with the chapter. Cell is also known as the structural and functional unit of life because our whole body is made up of cell, and it is also known as the building blocks of all living organisms. When I say building blocks of all living organisms, it means every organism, whether it is plants or animals or human beings, we are made up of this cell. We have got millions and millions of cells in our body which comes together and our body is formed. So cell is the building blocks of all living organisms. Now let us see who discovered cell and how. This cell was discovered by a scientist named Robert Hooke in 1665. So Robert Hooke discovered cells with his own self-designed microscope. He used to observe so many different objects, and one day, out of his own curiosity and out of his own interest, he observed a slice of a cork. So cork is made from the bark of a tree. He observed a slice of a cork, and what he saw or observed was that there was empty space in a structure which resembles like a honeycomb. I'm sure you know what honeycomb is. So it is just like a little room, as I have told you. Cell is derived from Latin word little room. It is like a little room joined together, compartment-like, and finally forming this shape. Cell is divided into two categories, and this classification is based on the number of cells. Unicellular and multicellular. Uni means one or single, multi means many. So what are unicellular cells organisms? Unicellular organisms are those which have a single cell, and that very single cell performs all the functions in the body that is required for the organisms to survive. Examples are amoeba and paramecium. Multicellular organisms are those organisms which constitute many cells. So they have got many cells to perform different functions. Every multicellular organism has come from a single cell. Cells divide to produce cells of their own kind. All cells thus come from pre-existing cells. So the example for multicellular organisms are like human beings. So over to the next. Types of cells found in the human heart. You will see different structures and shapes of cells in this particular PPT. So what does it tell us, or what information you get through these different size and shapes? So the size and shape of cells are related to the specific function they perform. So depending on the functions, work they do or they perform, their size varies. Some cells like amoeba have changing shapes. In some cases, the cell shape could be more or less fixed and peculiar for a particular type of cell. So these are the types of cells and their functions. Over to the next. What is cell made up of? Cell is made up of a component called cell organelles. So there are different cell organelles. We will be discussing them one by one, but if you see or study cell under the microscope, You will see three features in almost every cell. That means whether it is plant cell or animal cell, you will see the three features. Of course, there are also other cell organelles, but then there are some cell organelles which are present only in animal cells, and there are some cells which are present only in plant cells. But these three features, you will find it in every cell, whether it is plant cell or animal cell. And these three features are plasma membrane, nucleus, and cytoplasm. And all the activities that is taking place inside a cell is because of these features. So let us discuss the cell structures in detail one by one. But in this part 1 of chapter 5, we will be dealing with only the first type, that is plasma membrane or cell membrane. So what is plasma membrane? Plasma membrane is a thin, delicate outer covering of the outermost of the cell that separates the contents of the cell from its external environment. Plasma membrane ensures protection of the cell. That means it is just like the wall of our house, or we can say it is just like the skin of our body. That means when we are inside a house, we feel protected. Why? Because we are surrounded by walls on every side. So likewise, plasma membrane is the outer covering. If we look at microscopic view of any cell, that is whether it is a plant cell or animal cell, you will be able to see very clearly or prominently the plasma membrane. And the second point on plasma membrane is it is selectively permeable membrane. Let me say what is fully permeable membrane and selectively permeable membrane. Fully permeable membrane means membrane which allow everything to come in and go out of the membrane. Whereas when I say plasma membrane is selectively permeable membrane, means plasma membrane will allow selectively certain objects to come and go out of the membrane. At the same time, it will not allow certain objects to come in and go out of its membrane. So let us see how plasma membrane will allow things to pass in. There are two processes involved in the movement of the substances, and the two processes we called it as diffusion and the other as osmosis. So what is diffusion? Diffusion is nothing but exchange of gases between cells and also as well as cells and other environment, which means movement of gases from a region of higher concentration to a region of lower concentration. Let me just give you one example. Say let us take oxygen in two medium 1 and medium 2. Let us say region 1 has got higher concentration of oxygen and medium 2 has got lower concentration of oxygen. So what happens in this case is that oxygen will start flowing from region of higher concentration to a region of lower concentration. You will get a clearer picture of this if you see through the PowerPoint the gases moving from higher concentration to lower concentration. So diffusion has got a lot of applications. It helps in spread of different substances through our cytoplasm of cell. Osmosis is a type of diffusion. Diffusion helps in exchange of respiratory gases between the cells and their environment. Transpiration is diffusion process. Flowers spread aroma through diffusion to attract insects and other animals for pollination. So these are few importance or applications of diffusion. Over to the next, osmosis. Osmosis is exchange of water between cells as well as cells with other environment. We call it as osmosis. The process is the same, but in case of diffusion, exchange of gas takes place, whereas in case of osmosis, water exchange takes place. So I have said plasma membrane is selectively permeable membrane. That means it will not allow everything or anything to go inside and go out of the cell. So it will allow only gases and water to come in and go out of the cell. So in plasma membrane, it will allow only gas and water to go in and out of the cell. And when you put an animal cell or a plant cell inside a solution of sugar or salt in water, one of the following three things could happen. So here you have got three shapes of cells, and the other side is the explanation. So in the first case, if the medium surrounding the cell has a higher water concentration than the cell wall will gain water by osmosis. Such a solution is known as hypotonic solution. So hypotonic solution, the net results will be the cell will swell up. So that is the right side of the structure. High water concentration, the cells is likely to swell up. In a second case, if the medium has exactly the same water concentration as a cell, there will be no net movement of water across the cell membrane. Such a solution is isotonic solution. So in isotonic solution, the amount of water going into the cell is the same as the amount of water going out of the cell. So the cell will remain the same size. That is the first figure from the left side. And the third case, if the medium has a lower water concentration of water than the cell will lose water by osmosis. Such a solution is known as hypertonic solution. So the net result in hypertonic solution will be the cell will shrink. So that is the end of this topic for chapter 5 part 1. In case you have any doubt, you are most welcome to call me up and get clarified. Thank you, dear students.